It's Accountech Bytes, your rapid reconciliation of the week's accounting technology news with me, Tom Herbert. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you find this useful, please remember to like, subscribe, or follow, depending on your channel of choice. Let's get straight into the news. Let's get cracking with a bit of a government technology section and maybe ask ourselves who this is all benefiting in the long run. So first of all, the big news on Accounting Web yesterday was that small companies and micro entities will actually have to file P&L accounts with Companies House from 2028. The government had previously said they wouldn't, but they've changed their mind with a little opt-out. Now you're preparing these to give to HMRC anyway. What's one more submission between friends? But the big news attached to this was that in addition to these new filing rules, all companies will need to file accounts via commercial software, with the Companies House web and paper-based filing systems closed for accounts filing from April 2028. This is in line with the 3 million taxpayers that will eventually have to file using commercial software under the new Making Tax Digital for Income Tax rules that will be in full swing by April 2028. Now, last week I featured the launch of gov.uk Chat, the government's new AI-powered chatbot that it says will help people access government information more easily across a broad range of government services. So can you rely on it for tax information? Well, the folks at the Low Incomes Tax Reform Group, Liturgy, by the way, do some really excellent work. So if there's anything you can do to support them, then please do so. Anyway, they've put the app through its paces with a series of questions. As they say here, for some of the straightforward questions, the chatbot provided helpful responses and directed them to the relevant pages of gov.uk. So they've asked it a bank interest query, and the chatbot correctly explained HMRC says you need to register for self-assessment if your savings income is over 10,000, and then went on to highlight some other factors that may result in someone having to complete a tax return. However, there were other examples where the chatbot gave incorrect information. There's a capital gains tax query about someone gifting a house to their sister, where a taxpayer relying on the chatbot's answer could have been left with a misleading impression of their position. And there were also answers that were partly correct but had the potential to be misleading. The government's own testing found the chatbot's accuracy to be 90% across all topics. I'm not sure a percentage figure is that helpful when it comes to things with so much complexity attached to them. Anyway, Liturgy's analysis suggests a lower level of accuracy. And the group goes on to suggest that while the chat can be a useful starting point for finding information and maybe quicker than searching through the website, it should be used with care and backed up with professional advice if appropriate. And this week, HMRC also confirmed its plans for introducing multi-factor authentication to agent accounts. So the Revenue confirmed its timetable. There'll be 2 voluntary phases and a final phase. So the voluntary phases will see multi-factor authentication activated either the middle of July or the middle of August. Any agents who don't opt in for the voluntary phases, HMRC will switch them over to MFA between 28th of September and 15th of October 2026. It's well worth reading the accompanying article to this, which is written as a guide for what the changes mean in practice and how agents can prepare. And a bit of a boots on the ground perspective here from Two Sisters Accounting's Beth Jackson. She points out that as part of the process, HMRC makes you manually allocate every single client in your HMRC online account to each individual team member. She says we're talking 3 or 4 clicks for hundreds of clients, which will take hours across their team, let alone for bigger firms. Apparently a bulk allocate button has been requested, but HMRC has so far not delivered it. Now, looping back to something I mentioned last week, so Chartered Accountant Andrew Dick questioned whether under the Making Tax Digital for Income Tax programme, HMRC were going to show the taxpayer or their agent the calculation, the workings out in terms of how they arrived at the tax due figure. Well, after recording, Craig Ogilvie, the director for Making Tax Digital, came back to Andrew stating that While HMRC owns that tax calculation in Making Tax Digital, it's not accurate to say that they don't show the calculation, so software can play it back if they choose to. It would be nice if all softwares could do this. Is there some way HMRC could mandate that? I'm not sure. There may be technical reasons why not. Free Agent's principal product manager, Stu McEwen, provides a screenshot which shows HMRC's full breakdown of the data and the taxpayer's final tax position. I don't seem to be able to make it any bigger. Going back to the point I made at the beginning, who do all these changes benefit? A lot of this reminds me of the 1992 book Technopoly. I've just realised I've never said this author's name aloud. I'm thinking it's Neil Postman, but I'm secretly hoping it's Neil Postman. Anyway, in a Technopoly, the only ideas and thoughts that have social or cultural legitimacy are those that are supported or support the use of technology. So ideas in this Technopoly aren't evaluated based on how well they work, but in terms of how they support technology. It doesn't really matter if the systems being rolled out are any better for the end user. That's not really the point. And as for the items I've covered so far, I'd say at best are a net neutral for the user. I can see how they benefit the government because they're not spending money developing software. They're letting third-party vendors develop it. And I can see how it works for the software vendors because they have more subscribers. But who's this actually for? Just something to think about. Anyway, congratulations to Dhruv and Jose from Record OS, who've just raised $2 million in a pre-seed round. When I spoke to the boys late last year, they filled me in on the product. So it's essentially aiming to connect that data collection, working papers, review, and tax submission in a single workflow for accountants and tax agents. And it certainly seems to resonate with the investors. A bit of news from the UK Payments Initiative now, and a decade on from open banking, and we have what they are calling the next generation of open banking payments. So according to their data, more than 37 million payments are processed per month using open banking, but most of these are one-off. So these new changes will apparently enable recurring and automated payments to business and government. For consumers, this will mean being able to approve regular or variable payments directly from their bank account without sharing card details or relying on direct debits. Payments can only be taken within the limits agreed by the consumer, apparently giving them greater control over who can collect money, how much can be taken, and how long that permission lasts. And off the back of that, payments and collections firm Go Cardless has launched their recurring pay-by-bank product that they're saying will enable recurring, flexible, and automated bank payments. A couple of bits of people news now, and Cheltenham-based consultancy The Modern Firm has appointed Will Rush, formerly of Expert, Pixie, and Ignition, as their managing director. Always like to see a tech to practice move, and congratulations to Will. And mid-market cloud accounting platform Accountech has appointed Abigail Rappaport as its new Chief Operating Officer. And let's get on to some new stuff now and head into Iris Elements Tax. So the cloud part of the accounting suite's offering, they have launched intelligent document processing. It says here to help the process of creating self-assessment tax returns. They've launched their intelligent document processing feature. Working with Microsoft, the AI-powered document processing feature reads imported documents, extracts the data, and once reviewed by the user, populates the SA100 for that client. And Iris has also launched its Tax Anomaly Detector Plus. So they've added an extra option to the Tax Anomaly Detector, which enables the user to run enhanced anomaly detection. This offers actions to optimize the tax return and validates the data against HMRC rules. After some pretty spicy criticism from the profession for launching its accounting tool without an accountant portal, Challenger Bank Sterling has announced a timetable for accountant partner access. So existing accountant and bookkeeper partners can apply to join from the end of June, where they'll get read-only access to clients. And a Starling spokesperson told me that a full version of the portal will eventually enable partners to complete tasks like posting journals and importing opening balances. Not quite sure when that's coming though. A new one from practice management tool Sodium, and they've released client billing. So Sodium automatically generates billing lines from your service prices, bundles them into invoices, and pushes them straight to your accounting platform. Here's an update from the busy folks at AI note-taking tool Vinyl, who say that through their email integration, you can send client follow-ups minutes after the meeting ends. So Vinyl connects to Gmail or Outlook, and after any meeting recorded in Vinyl, you can generate a personalized follow-up email based on the actual conversation. It'll draft the email, and you can take a look, review, tweak, and send it on your own terms. A couple of bits and pieces from proposals and practice data tool Socket. They've rebuilt the engagement letter and service schedule library, so the document your client receives is clearer to read and quicker to set up. You can upload a meeting transcript or paste in your notes, and Socket will draft a full proposal for you in under 2 minutes. And if you're already in the beta test for Socket's forms function, you can now build forms that only ask each client the questions that apply to them, so they fill in less and you collect cleaner data. And here's an update from Intuit QuickBooks about its new payroll tiers. So these are 3 plans: Core, Premium, and Elite, that start for director-only and first-time employer clients and rise to complete workforce solutions for clients with a mobile workforce. Tax and accounting giant Wolters Kluwer has launched its BEPS Pillar 2 return filing capabilities on its CCH integrator, its global tax platform, which will enable multinationals and advisory firms to submit compliant global anti-base erosion information returns and domestic minimum top-up returns to HMRC ahead of that first filing deadline on the 30th of June. AI audit tool MindBridge is introducing some new capabilities designed to help audit and assurance professionals modernize risk assessment, focus audit attention more effectively across full population data, and scale their analytics across more complex engagements. The partnership news from document management practice management tool FYI, and they've got an integration with Abacor, an AI meeting assistant that captures and understands client conversations. And some partnership news to finish: and audit platform Inflow and tax and accounting workflow tool HubSync have announced a partnership that they say will deliver a unified digital audit and tax experience for accounting firms. And that's your lot for today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you'd be kind enough to like, follow, or subscribe, that would be great. And even better, if you could sign up for my accounting technology email. So pop your address in the box, hit the yellow button, and the email will be with you every Thursday morning. I'll be back next week with another video. Bye for now.